Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. I often see questions online about how to attach vellum to card making, scrapbooking, and other paper crafting projects, so that's the topic of today's video. And after you've watched this entire video, if I've missed a way that you use to attach vellum, please do let me know. I'd love to learn more from you. Now, I'm assuming you know what vellum is since you clicked on this video, but just in case you don't, this is what vellum looks like. It is a paper-like product. It's not actually paper that has a translucent quality to it, and it comes in different shapes, sizes, and thicknesses. Because of the qualities of vellum, it adds a very particular look and feel to projects that is very intriguing to a lot of people. However, because of the translucent nature, you can see adhesives behind this product, and that is often a look that people want to avoid. So we're going to talk about multiple ways that you can avoid seeing that adhesive. And these techniques will apply to many of the see-through elements that are on the paper crafting market, like printed acetate, printed vellum embellishments, and we'll talk about those as we go. So let's go ahead and get started with our first idea, and that is to cover it. And this is probably the most logical idea. So here I am. I'm just going to put a little dab of glue behind the corner of this, and as I show it to the camera, you can see the blob of that dab of glue. So what we're going to do here is just cover it up with something else. And in this case, I'm just going to punch out an element, glue it right on top, and then you can decorate up that element however you might like. Like with these enamel dot products, don't put those enamel dot products away because we are going to come back to those. So next up, if you have a printed vellum, the printing often is enough coverage to hide the glue behind it. So in this case, this butterfly is printed with a gold ink, and that is enough to hide the glue. Remember, any shape can be used to cover up. Here I used corner punches to cover up, and next up I'm going to use a combination of punches and die cut words. Now I put most of my glue behind that circle area, but you can glue the words straight to the vellum, flip your vellum over, and then add glue behind just where the word is, just like we did with the butterfly, and glue that to your project. Now you aren't limited to just using paper for this cover it up technique. You can try things like flare badges, cork, and even wood veneer. So get creative with the things that you use to cover it up. As we take a look at these close-ups, the cover it up option is probably the most obvious, but let's take a look at another option that is similar but maybe less obvious, and I'm calling this the tuck it option. So I'm grabbing my little sample page here and I'm going to punch out some shapes, and in this case I just use little banners, and I'm just gluing the very edge of the banner to my project. And I don't mind using banners upside down, that doesn't bug me, but you can certainly use other shapes for this, and we will get to that in a moment. And then I just slide my sheet of vellum in and out underneath those areas where I've glued that down. Now your vellum does need to be cut pretty closely to size in order to get this to work well. And here you can see you can do that with any shape you want. Here I'm creating little tabs with a circle punch and cutting those circles in half to create a sliding tab. Of course, this technique can be used vertically or horizontally or diagonally, so just go with whatever you think is going to work for your project. Next up is what I called the fold it. Now you can tell that this was filmed out of sequence, but when I was editing the video, I decided that this made the most sense here. And this can be done with any size sheet of vellum. As long as you have room to fold over the edges, you can just fold it and glue it on the back side. And the nice thing about this is that it leaves that front side loose, and you can do other techniques with the loose vellum, like tuck things around it or under it. And next up, we're going to talk about physical attachments with staples. Now, some people think staples are ugly, but I think they can be a stylistic choice. And here I'm just demonstrating the difference between a standard stapler and a specialized craft stapler. And of course, the challenge with staples is that you can only reach as far as your stapler is long, so that can be a limitation. And then here I am using staples as that style choice that I mentioned. You can staple them into different shapes and patterns to get more of a very specific look. And I think staples are a good solution in some cases. Speaking of attaching things with office supply type products, let's go ahead and talk about paper clips. And you can just use plain regular paper clips, or you can spruce up your paper clips or buy pre-spruced paper clips to attach your products. Now, paper clips aren't quite as secure, but if you want to keep it stuck down, you can add a little bit of glue behind the arms of the paper clips. Next up is stickers, and this is the built-in cover it up where you have an element that already has its own adhesive, and you can build up lovely embellishment clusters with these stickers. And here I've brought back in my enamel dots. Did you know that you could just use the enamel dots as is to stick down the edges of your vellum? And the enamel dots can add their own design element, or in the case of these clear dots, you can be way more subtle with your attachment, and that can leave a lot more focus on the vellum itself. When we are talking about sticky stuff, we have to include washi tape. Now, washi tape can be used on any project, but I particularly like it on a more neutral background with this pop of pattern and color. That is a great use of washi tape. Shifting directions again, we're going to talk about stitching. Now I am going to take this to my sewing machine and machine stitch it, but don't worry if you don't want to use a sewing machine or don't have a sewing machine, we'll talk about other things you can do. Here I am cleaning up my stitching by pulling the front thread to the back and taping it down. This is a technique I do quite a bit, but you could leave those tails hanging loose depending on the style of your project. Now, if you don't have a machine, you can always hand stitch using something like embroidery floss and a darning needle, or even just a regular sewing needle and thread you can stitch through. But if sewing really isn't your thing, we can use the method I call tie it. And I'm going to use a hole punch, and I have a few different sizes. I'm going to use a medium size hole punch. This is not a standard school type hole punch. And I'm going to punch a couple of holes. I'm going to layer up different fibers. So I've got some natural twine here, and I've got my gold thread that I took off my sewing machine. I'm going to wrap those together into a single unit, and I'm going to run those through my holes. Now I did have a little bit of a challenge getting all those fibers in place, but once I've got it there, I use my scissors as a helping hand to get that knot tied into place. And I wanted my tails of my knot to dangle, and they weren't behaving very well, so I forced them into the shape that I wanted, and I'll just add a dot of glue to hold them there. So here is a look at that way of attaching vellum. While you've got those hole punches out, I've got one more idea to share with you, and I'm calling that the poke it method. You can poke little holes and use older items like eyelets, or here I'm using brads. And the fun thing about brads is that it can create this little interactive flippiness to your project. This video wouldn't be complete without talking about special adhesives that are on the market. This one in particular is by the Glue Dots company, and it's their Glue Dots Vellum product. And these come on sheets, and basically those are micro dots of adhesive on these sheets, and I'm going to adhere just half of this with this adhesive. So you pick it up by pressing it into the adhesive, and then you press it down to your project, and as you can see, that adhesive really is invisible, and I really do recommend this brand. Now I haven't used other brands, so I can't really speak to the quality of those ones, but I'm sure there's plenty of options on the market that could work for you. Speaking of other options, you could use full sheet adhesives to apply your vellum. As long as you cover your vellum edge to edge, you will have success. Now, I do not recommend this brand in particular because this stuff is super sticky and I use it only for very specific projects, but this is the only sheet adhesive I have, so I wanted to at least mention this option to you. As you can see from this still shot, the one on the right was covered edge to edge and becomes unnoticeable as an adhesive, although it does change the translucent quality of the vellum. That's the trade-off. Yet the one on the left, where I didn't make it all the way to the edge, you can see the boundary between the adhesive and the vellum, and if you want to avoid that, you do need to take the time and effort to be really careful in trimming these products down. Now with either of these specialty adhesives, and even with something like the Xyron Sticker Maker, you can adhere your adhesive to the vellum, then go ahead and run it through die cut machines or punches or whatnot. You can create your own stickers out of these specialty adhesive products, and you don't need any other things to cover, hide, tuck, or any of the other techniques that we've talked about. The vellum can just stand as is. This very last technique I almost didn't include because it is really finicky, but it might be a best option for someone who doesn't have any of these other options to hand, or the other techniques just won't give you the look that you're going for. So this technique is what I call the smear it technique, and that is to use just a regular glue in enough that you can smear the backside from edge to edge for complete coverage. But as you can see here, if you don't smear it evenly, you are going to get some defects in that glue. So this technique works best with smaller items, with less intricate items. And here I am doing a whole big heart. And while you can see that the glue isn't evenly spread, it doesn't give it harsh glue lines. So it could be a technique that would work if you're open to a more varied translucency across the project. So that wraps up the ideas I have to share this time around. In the beginning, I asked if I missed any of your favorite techniques. So if I did, please do let me know, let us know, so that we can all learn together. Thank you so much for being here. If you've got something useful out of this video, I really do appreciate a thumbs up because that does help my channel. And now that you know how to attach vellum, I will be back in a few days to show you different techniques you can use to decorate up your projects with vellum. And before I can get to that video, I do have my scrapbook kit build for the first of the month coming up tomorrow. So if you don't want to miss any of these future videos, go ahead and subscribe and you'll be able to catch these upcoming episodes. Again, thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with me. Until I see you next time, have an artful day.